Alright, now we're going to navigate to the administration section to review some important items on the EHR setup and customization options. The main focus of this webinar is to explain some of the important areas that you could customize, and we'll talk about the meaningful use area. The three main areas that you could customize are the chief complaint forms, the custom forms, and the physical exam. All three of these areas use a question-answer format where you could put in a question and then a different answer format option. And as suggested, please download the account setup checker to review important information pertaining to these items that could be set up or customized, such as the chief complaint forms. You will see some client action required, activate, customize these chief complaint question and answers, correlate to HPI elements, and set up suggested coding. The reason why we recommend that you use the chief complaint forms is because you do get the HPI elements that are a part of the E&M coding assist. And then you also get the suggested coding, so you get two great features with these chief complaint forms that will help with the documentation process and to make sure that you're properly coding the claim. Just an example, and again, this is why I like to use two screens at one time. I have one screen on the EHR platform where we could review what's been set up or customized, and then the other screen is on the setup section so we can continue to set up and customize certain areas. I do highly recommend, while you're going through the chief complaint forms, custom forms, or physical exam, confirm the setup and the output of those to make sure they appear properly on the encounter summary preview. For example, chief complaint forms, we have one for sore throat. We could search sore throat and pull up a list of our question answer format. And then you'll see that you have a question and then an answer option. Maybe it's painful and raw, severe tense or throat pain, moderate pain, how long have you had this for, 4 to 7 days, and so this question answer format is customizable, and then you could see the associated HPI elements as well. So we'll hit the save option, and scrolling down, now you'll see the completed chief complaint and the breakdown of the HPI elements. As mentioned, on the diagnosis coding screen, we have the suggested coding for a sore throat. Going back to the EHR setup, so that's the chief complaint forms, and we'll go through the setup of a question answer format here in a moment. But before we do that, I'm going to explain the custom forms and your options with custom forms. Really, a custom form is going to be used anytime that you need an item, anytime that you need an area to document something or follow your format of documentation that you could not normally find in the default Health Fusion options. With the custom forms, again, going back to our Excel file, you got two main options. Is one, you could definitely activate our custom forms and or customize your own. One of the great options with custom forms is you could have the output in either a tabular or a narrative format, and let me go ahead and show you an example of that. Going back to the chief complaint screen, we'll do ear, nose, throat, sore throat, and this is again another example of the question answer format. And hit save there. And then I'm going to hit the encounter summary preview to show you an example of what the output would look like. So that's the tabular format. And then let me go ahead and navigate over to a care plan. So we could show you the narrative output. And again, you could activate some of the default ones that we have, or just create your own. Here's an example of what the narrative option would display as. You have headers and complete sentences and or paragraphs underneath those headers. So now you have a good example of what a tabular and or a narrative output would look like on the custom forms. And then just the last area that we were going to recommend or kind of review for the setup and customization is a physical exam. Again, we have a number of default findings and options for you there, but it's always recommended to make sure this mimics your normal documentation requirements. And just an example of what the physical exam would look like. Physical exam. So under ENT, maybe we'll look at the throat here. You have your normal default finding, which means everything's good. And then you have your individual touch phrases below where you could enter additional, abnormal finding information. One click from blue goes to green, and one click from green goes to red, where you'll have that question answer format that follows the custom forms and chief complaint forms. So maybe we'll have inflammation on the right hand side and viral infection. Hit save, and now that's going to be on the output. So these areas can be customized, but you could always just use what our default findings are and just make minor tweaks to it. Going back to the setup, we're just going to review the question answer format, and we'll just review that on the custom form area. And again, the same question answer format, similar to the chief complaint forms and the physical exam. Again, for additional training on those topics, there are help documents and videos that walk you through that setup. As for the custom forms, you could add a tab to a number of screens and then put individual forms underneath those tabs. From here, we'll click Add New Form, or you could always activate and or edit forms that are already available to you. Here's another example. So we could take what we have here and either edit that, delete our questions, add new headers if you'd like, or at the very bottom we could add an additional question. So for example here, and then we'll click Next. And this could be all the different answer types that we have: yes, no, normal, abnormal. It could be a number, it could be a text, it could be a date, it could be a select list, it could be a toggle through, or a multi-select. So for this, let's say maybe it's just a yes, no, and if they answer yes, so again, you have your question answer format. That's going to be on the output. So if I answer yes, this will be on the output. If I answer no, that will be on the output. You could click Next here, and you could do a follow-up questions. Explained. So we could say what treatment options were explained, and click the Next, and maybe this is going to be a multi-select. So if you use the curly brackets, that's going to insert the actual answer into that sentence. So it would, the output, if medications was selected, would read, we explained that medications are a common treatment option, along with and surgery. Click Next here, and then click Save Question. So that will be available on the output. As mentioned, it's always good to confirm what the output will look like while you're going through the setup to make sure you created it correctly. So we'll go to that area. Here's the question answer format that we added. Hit Save, and here's what the output looks like. All treatment options were explained to the patient. We explained that medications are a common treatment option, along with daily changes in living and surgery. Alright, so there's a good example of what you could do in the setup of the system. Then just the last thing I'll explain about the customization is the use of the office tests and office procedures. Office tests should be used and set up for any tests that you perform in the office in which you're looking to document some sort of result, like a normal or abnormal result. Office procedures should be used when performing an actual procedure, but you're not looking to document any sort of normal or abnormal result. With the setup of the office procedures, you could use an actual custom form to document the actual office procedure, or just use straight text. And just have a paragraph in the question answer format. Some examples of what should be set up here are injections, or any sort of wound treatment, Really anything that you do that requires the use of a CPT code should be set up here, because not only can you document the actual procedure, but you could code the claim at the same time. Let me show you a couple examples of an office procedure. One is for an injection. We could use the actual CPT code, and then again here's an example of the question answer format. Hit save, and now I documented the actual injection at the same time, coded the claim. Another example of that would be like a B12 injection. You could set these up to have certain defaults, and this is an example of a narrative output. That was a custom form in the tabular output. And then another example is just something like a Botox injection, where it could just be a straight paragraph already written out. So now I documented all these procedures at the same time. I coded the claim. So this is really a great area to set up and utilize either your custom forms or straight paragraphs to document actual procedures there at the office. Alright, the last thing that we're going to review or just recommend, highly recommend, is meaningful use and quality measures. It is the client's responsibility to come in here and set your meaningful use start date so we can accurately track the meaningful use report card and all the measures. The first year that you report is going to be a 90-day reporting period, and each additional year after that is a 1-year reporting period. So make sure at the beginning of the year, make sure you set this to January 1st so we can accurately track your numbers for the entire year. Alright, thank you for joining this webinar. Alright, well that's really all that I had. Okay, well that is it for this webinar. As recommended, please review the documents and videos on the help site, complete the exercises, and go through the setup on your own. While you're going through the setup, write down any questions that you have and come back to these webinars to get your questions answered. Thank you all for joining, and I look forward to seeing you on the Q&A webinar.